From an Islamic standpoint, supporting an oppressor directly or by extension is not allowed. So said the Chief of Staff of the Iraq-based Global Imams Council, Imam Abdullah Mumni, before declaring a boycott of the Winter Olympics Game 2022 in Beijing this year. But what about those nations that call themselves the defenders of all Muslims? Why is our nation Pakistan mum? Why won't Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, and Iran say a word against the torture of Muslims in Xinjiang? Why revenge for disrespectable cartoons and photographs, but when actual hate crimes are committed against our Muslim brothers, these very leaders refuse to speak? Before we dwell into these aspects and the hypocrisy of those who call themselves messiahs of Muslims, here is the story of what's happening in Xinjiang. The Chinese government's efforts to erase the unique identity of Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims began majorly after the 2009 riots. Since then, as if it's a singular aim of the Chinese Communist Party, China's government has forced Uyghur minority to live with denials and restrictions such as systematically breaking down major mosques of the region, destroying Uyghur cemeteries, detaining them in concentration camps for being re-educated, subjecting them to 24-hour surveillance, replacing traditional language on hoardings, textbooks, videos, with Mandarin, abolishing traditional attire, are really the minor ones. In June 2021, a group of UN human rights experts raised alarm about alleged organ harvesting that targeted ethnic minorities in China, like Uyghurs, Tibetans, Christians, Falun Gong practitioners, etc. They said, "We are deeply concerned by reports of discriminatory treatment of the prisoners, which is based on their ethnicity, religion, and belief." The experts said they had received credible information that detainees from ethnic, linguistic or religious minorities were forcibly subjected to blood tests and organ examinations, which the Han detainees did not have to go through. The results of these examinations were also reportedly registered in a database of living organ sources that facilitates organ allocation. Using war on terror as an excuse to prosecute ethnic unrest, and legitimizing counter-insurgency policies in Xinjiang, the Chinese officials have justified their actions as essential for countering Islamist terrorism and for maintaining national security. While few countries have now finally started speaking up, it is astonishing that most Muslim nations still remain silent. For countries like Indonesia and Pakistan, which are under extreme economic distress, staying muted and turning a blind eye to the persecution of the Uyghurs is the only option. Most pro-Uyghur activists believe the stance of these countries can be attributed to huge investments by Beijing in the form of loans and infrastructure development projects. So, while against the rules of Islam and wishes of common citizens, these governments choose to behave as spokespersons for Chinese government and are even forced to deport every Uyghur who takes refuge with them. An even greater reason that persecution of Uyghur Muslim hasn't sparked mass protests in these majority Muslim countries is that most of these countries are themselves embroiled in repression and human rights violations, like the condition of activists in Saudi Arabia, or human rights rollbacks in Erdogan's Turkey, or the forced conversion and honor killings of Baloch and Sindhi minorities in Pakistan. To be very honest, it's not that difficult a question. Islam has forever stood for humanity. Now, it is time for our politicians realize and understand this too. It is after all, as Imam Abdullah Mumni said, from an Islamic standpoint, supporting an oppressor directly or by extension is not allowed.